is Aaron Edwards, Santos Springs. Welcome to this week's edition of the Friday Field Report South America, April 3rd, 2026. Man, it's already April. Planting here in the U.S. is right around the corner in most of the Corn Belt. Some guys getting started, I've heard, especially in the South. Be safe out there. Hope planting goes well. Now let's shift gears and talk about South America. We're going to talk about some harvest selling pressure that we still have down there and what that's doing to basis. We'll talk about what's happening in the field from a developmental standpoint, both on soybeans that are wrapping up their cycle as well as Safrinha double crop corn. And we'll wrap up with some weather. So let's get to it. Let me go ahead and share the screen and we're going to start talking a little bit about the soybean cash market down there. So the first talking point is Mato Grosso basis. I'm going to use Mato Grosso as kind of an iconic example. Roughly 1/3 of the soybeans in Brazil are produced in the state of Mato Grosso. It's also right in the heartland of Brazil. So some of the more extreme examples of mega farms, of bad logistics, of cutting edge technology, some of the more extreme examples of Brazilian agricultures happen in the state of Mato Grosso. It's also not really landlocked, but it's definitely far inland. So they have a lot of the more pressured basis. The first thing we wanted to talk about is on-farm storage. Roughly 15% of Brazil's crop can be stored on farm. That's the first thing. And they don't have as robust of an insurance market down there. It's not correct to say that they don't have crop insurance, but they would love to have the crop insurance options that we have here in the US at the price points that we have here. So their crop insurance is a little iffier. And because of that, a lot of them end up not doing crop insurance just because the returns on crop insurance aren't great. But that also makes them a little bit more hesitant to forward price because they don't have any insurance as a backdrop on that. So they do forward price, but not as aggressively. So if you don't forward price as aggressively and you don't have as much on-farm storage, you get a lot of selling pressure concentrated around harvest time. And we've seen over the last 18 months, we've seen just the climbing of their bankruptcies going up. And we're kind of in a perfect storm where they are coming up, a lot of bills are due, and they are not being paid. Either grain is not being sold or they're sold at too low of a price. So we kind of have an active major problem happening here. And in the midst of that, the essence of that problem is there's a lot of soybeans. Farmers need cash and the price is not high enough, but so they kind of have to dump their beans. What I wanted to point out about that though is what's happening to basis. And if we think about basis, let's say this is the Chicago Board of Trade. See, let me do that a little bit better. Let's say this is the CBOT, and basis is either over or under that, right? In Mato Grosso at harvest, if we say, let's just do a little H here for harvest, and then we'll do a little O here for off season. At harvest, it's normal for basis levels to be around $2 negative. And then a lot of times they get close to even in the off season. That would be kind of a normal pattern. You can have positive basis in Mato Grosso. In this off season, if you're wondering what time of year it is, it's roughly U.S. harvest. It's just offset, northern, southern hemisphere. So there's usually roughly about a $2. Now maybe it's $2.30 or $2.50. This year, it's way down here around $2.80, depending on where you are in Mato Grosso. Basis is way down here. So not only is it a really bad year, not only is exchange rate bad, basis is really hurting them. Will it make it all the way back up to even? How much will that appreciate? Or will it stay low here for a long time? And a lot of folks in the Western Corn Belt here in the US, obviously it's not a $2.80 basis under Chicago, but they've definitely felt a lot of that pressure in the Western Corn Belt, especially here where basis was horrible and it just stayed bad a long time. I think that we're probably going to see aftermath. If you think about that margin, let's just, for rounded numbers, on a $10, if beans are $10, if beans are $10 a bushel, again, rounded numbers, right? Then a $2 basis improvement, that's 20%. For waiting basically from harvest, you obviously have to hedge it, right? Because it's a basis improvement, but from waiting from Brazilian harvest to US harvest in Brazil, you know, if you wait from say March, April until say August through October, a $2 improvement in that window of time, we're talking about 6 months and about 20%. That pays for a lot of custom storage, that pays for a lot of interest rates, and that's a basis improvement, so that's in dollars. Their interest rate in Brazilian currency is higher. But I think that we're going to see, I think there's going to be a drive to increase on-farm storage. I think that there's going to be, I mean, there's some numbers down there that needs to change. They're bankruptcies because they don't have cash, but they're also leaving 20% of the margin on the table. And we're seeing some of that here in the US as well, where a lot of guys dumped their beans last harvest, and then we went to, you know, at 9 something, 10 something, and then we went to $12 and so on and so forth. So there's a story on basis down there that's worth tracking. And then as we shift gears, let me get this here. Let's just talk about developmentally where they're at. Grab the marker. Red will work just fine. 74.3 is soybeans that are harvested. I'll move this out of the way here so we can see. 16.9, that's soybeans that are maturing. And 7.98%, that's filling pods. Then we have just a little bit here that is under 1%. We won't even deal with that. So most of it is already harvested, 74%. We've got a little bit maturing, 17%, and a little bit that's slower developmentally. Most of this is in southern Brazil plants a little later. They don't get a double crop. So it's not necessarily abnormal. They just have their beans coming out a little bit later. And then we shift gears. From a market standpoint, I feel like this is actually the big one to watch, which is their double crop corn. They were 95.5% planted as of the beginning of the week. 73.1% vegetative development. 19, just shy of 20% is flowering or basically pollination. And then we have 7.2% that has popped out of the ground, and we still have 5% to go. I was talking to some farmers in an area, and they said almost all the corn in their area was planted way late. And so we have 10 to 20% of the crop that is late. And there are serious concerns about that. But most of the crop, 70% roughly, is probably okay. It's okay for now, for sure, but it was planted on time. So unless rains shut off early, it's probably okay. It's looking okay so far. And then we have about 20% that's already going through pollination. It'll be just fine. So of the Safrinha corn, I would say 20% is safe. 70% was planted within the window. Now, some of that's maybe a little on the late side. Some of that will probably be okay. And then we have 10% that is for sure late. And part of this 73% that's in vegetative development, it was planted on the later side. So it kind of depends on that. So they're not out of the woods From a production standpoint, we could still have a loss to their production. But for this week, it's tough to picture a bearish story. Sorry. It's tough to picture a bullish story because they've got adequate rainfall. I didn't get a temperature chart, but temperatures are all friendly. Rainfall is friendly. They have a healthy growing corn crop. 80 to 90% of it was planted on time. There's just not much of a bullish story on corn out of South America this week. Things can change. For me, it's kind of like getting it over that pollination. We got to get rains through pollination. 20%, that's practically okay unless there's something strange happens. They've got forecasted rains to get that. We've got the other 80% of their crop that needs to make it through pollination with those rains in order for them to have an okay crop. So that's something we should track week by week. We will be tracking it here. If you have anybody that doesn't follow us that would like this content, just forward them this email and they can get signed up. What's on most guys' minds down there is how can I sell how can I sell beans and pay my bills, and these prices will not cut it. That's what's keeping most guys up at night down there. And they're already, in the same way that we watch weather down there, a lot of them are already asking questions about what's going on in the field here in the US. When will guys start planting? Are conditions good? So we're seeing some of that attention. The main market that I would watch from a weather standpoint, we got to check that Safrinha corn out. There could still be a bullish story, just not this week on the corn. Have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. Happy Easter. We'll catch up next week.